Hello everyone, Sodors Dragon is back! So, in case you guys didn't know, it's my birthday! Woo! Yeah! Woohoo! Yeah! And now that you all know how old I am, let's get to what I'm gonna do for my birthday. I'm gonna be giving some goodies to other Thomas fans. And what kind of goodies? Well, how about a new series where I talk about the lore from my AU? How is that? You don't want to hear it? Well, too bad, it's my birthday and I'm doing this. So sit back, relax, and enjoy what I call the lore of the Dragonverse. Number 1. Based on a comment that I saw on one of my videos regarding Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, I will say that it is canon to my AU, but there are a few changes to it. The first part is that Walter, the austerity engine, is in Ryan's role of the movie. Like, he does the same things that Ryan did in the movie, replaces Thomas on his branch line, gets involved in the dynamite incident, and also helps to stop Sailor John from getting away with the treasure. And as a reward for his part in stopping the runaway pirate, Walter is awarded the branch line. He now runs it by himself, and doesn't see the other engines too much, but, he's happy there. The other change in my Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure AU is that James is involved in Marion's subplot. I don't know how to establish it all, but basically he kind of wants to prove that he's right about the Vera-Wee engines being magic. Number 2. When Henry left to be rebuilt at Crew, the Fat Controller called the mainland to see if he could borrow an engine to help during Henry's absence. The LNER was able to spare an engine for the time being, and that engine was a Great Central Robinson Atlantic, the very engine that the Fat Controller meant to purchase. The Atlantic, whose name is Lily, requested to go as she felt she was the reason Henry had gotten into his accident. She was meant to go to Sodor in 1919 but got stopped and Henry was sent in her place. She was confused until she realized the reason behind it. She was very resentful as she cared a lot for Henry and was worried that he wouldn't survive on his own. And when the Flying Kipper accident happened, Lily decided to make things right by helping the Fat Controller's engines until Henry returns. Of course, there were worries when Lily arrived. Everyone was worried that Henry could end up being replaced by Lily if she was more successful than him. But the Fat Controller was quick to assure them that Henry's rebuild will be successful, as William Stanier was more than happy to help with Henry's rebuild. When Henry did return, he too had some mixed feelings. Now, the Black Fives are more powerful than the Great Central Atlantics, but even so, Henry was worried that Lily could replace him, but the Fat Controller was kind and said Henry had exceeded his expectations following his rebuild. He did keep on Lily, however, as her class was being relegated to slower trains, and he was very impressed by her work. Lily will continue to work on the Fat Controller's railway for a number of years as a secondary express engine, until she was withdrawn in the 1960s. Thankfully, Lily was saved and is now part of the Earl's locomotive collection as his chief rail tour engine. Number 3. For my take on Big World Big Adventures, rather than being a whole plot of Thomas traveling the world, it's broken down into separate stories in different parts of the world. It begins with Thomas being curious about what the rest of the world is like, so he begins sending letters to engines he met at the Great Railway Show. He would receive letters from different international engines telling him their stories. In Africa, Soured Nia proves her usefulness when she helps Kwaku bring a long, heavy goods train to Dar es Salaam. In Brazil, Raul and Gator navigate the rainforest to deliver some coffee beans from Rio de Janeiro to Colombia for an engine to take to San Francisco. In San Francisco itself, Natalie does her best to get the Big City Dock Railway tidied up for an inspection with Puffa and Lil Owl's help. Tugs is canon, by the way, note that. And in the Himalayas, Ashima is asked to take trains across the Himalayan mountains with a boastful Rajiv. Both engines meet up with Yongbao and a very overconfident Hongmei. Both Rajiv and Hongmei get into trouble in the Himalayas, but Ashima and Yongbao save them. And the movie ends with Thomas expressing his desire to see more of the world. Number 4. The following engines were involved in the Northwestern Railways construction: Thomas, Edward, Emily, Whiff, Harvey, Sonny, Charlie, Billy, and Glenn. They were involved in the more major parts of the Northwestern's construction: Vickerstown Bridge, Vickerstown Station, the tunnel that Henry would eventually be shut in, the viaduct near Cronk, the expansions of Crovan's Gate, Wellsworth, Sudbury, Knapford, and Tidmouth. Number 5. As we know in Troublesome Engines, Gordon, Henry, and James went on strike due to having to shunt their own trains, and Percy was brought to Sodor as a result. But there's more to it. In my AU, the strike takes place during the Great Depression, and it wasn't just Gordon, Henry, and James that went on strike. Their crews, some of the workmen, and even other engines also joined in, as they were getting paid less or were not happy with the conditions during the Depression. Not only were the 3 big engines were shut in the shed, but the crews and workmen who had joined them were laid off as a result, and several other engines were withdrawn from service. Thankfully, when the war happened, they were allowed to return to work. Also, one of the tank engines, Diana, who's a Caledonian, was the primary shunter at Tidmouth, but due to the Depression, she was temporarily withdrawn, which contributed to the strike. And there were other tank engines on the railway at the time, but they were either too busy, too old, or had to be withdrawn because of the Depression. Number 6. This one involves the slip coaches. When they arrived on Sodor, Duck started to use them more often than Alice and Mirabelle during their trial. The 2 auto coaches were worried about their future with Duck, but the Fat Controller assured them that they would continue to be Duck's engine for years to come. As for the slip coaches, they would be passed on between engines until they would permanently become Donald's coaches. This is so that Donald can join Duck, Oliver, and Douglas in having their own sets of rolling stock. Now, Duck has Alice and Mirabelle, Oliver has Isabel and Dulcie, Douglas has Toad, and now Donald has the slip coaches. Number 7. Due to his devotion to his railway, Mr. Fergus Duncan will sometimes stay overnight at his office or the sheds. He is a very heavy sleeper, and it amazes Bert and Sigrid that Rex, Mike, Frank, and Jock's squabbles don't wake up their controller. Number 8. Ginty and Pug are members of the Northwestern Railway. Both engines were purchased by the Fat Controller following the events of 8 Famous Engines, as he was very impressed with their work during his engine's time in London. Ginty currently runs the Brendam push-pull service on Edward's branch line, and as for Pug, he works as a station pilot at Tidmouth, shunting trains for the other engines. Number 9. Like Wilfred on the Colby Fell Railway, the Arlesdale, Skarloey, and Northwestern Railways have their own musical engines. When he was given his new horn, Rusty loved to use it to make music. The other engines were annoyed at first, but they soon grew to love Rusty's musical rhythm. For the Northwestern, Donald and Douglas loved to sing many different types of Scottish songs, so much so that the engines have lost track as to how many times they have heard a Scottish song come out of the twins. Salty loves to sing songs of the sea, but he's also sung a few songs he heard from British Navy sailors whenever they stopped by the port. And for the Arlesdale Railway, well, Sigrid loves to sing opera, something that annoys Mike to no end. In fact, whenever Mike starts to annoy someone, Sigrid will just utter out any opera notes just to get him to leave. Number 10. During the 1950s and 60s, the Railway Board of Directors heard about how steam was being phased out in favor of diesels on the mainland. Knowing the Fat Controller would never approve of replacing his steam engines, in the 1960s, they secretly began to withdraw and scrap any steam engines. They also planned to keep the more well-known steam engines, i.e. those appeared in the books or are very popular with the Sudring residents, as museum pieces. Fortunately, the Fat Controller did find out their plan and fired the members who were willing to replace the steam engines, including the head of the railway board, P.T. Boomer. The Fat Controller did his best to save many of the withdrawn steam engines from the torch, but sadly, he was only able to save about half of them. And that's all the Dragonverse lore I have for today. If you want more, I recommend that you subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Blue Sky, or add me on Discord. I do have more lore for my AU, and I will plan to showcase it through stories or future lore ramblings. Alright, I'm off to celebrate my birthday. Take care, and have a good one.